In The Boys, superheroes are treated like celebrities with none more respected and celebrated than the superhero team known as the Seven. There's their narcissistic and psychotic leader, Homelander, who is basically an evil Superman. A Train has super speed, the Deep can talk to fish, Queen Maeve has super strength, Black Noir can regenerate, and translucent skin can become invulnerable and invisible. The arrogant and corrupt heroes work for the megacorporation VA International and care more about their public image and the perks being famous provides than the countless lives their superheroics could save. Season 1 of The Boys introduces Huey Campbell, whose girlfriend Robin is accidentally killed by being run through at super speed by a train. Huey is devastated by the loss and angered when a train faces zero repercussions. And that's when Huey meets Billy Butcher, leader of the Boys, a vigilante group looking to take down the Seven and their corrupt VA overlords. Butcher has a personal grudge against Homelander, as the superhero had assaulted and killed his wife, Becca. Other members of the team include Mother's Milk and Frenchie. The Boys manage to apprehend and kill Seven-member Translucent while also learning more information to help expose VA and the Seven. They learn that a Train has a secret girlfriend named Popclaw and that he is taking a drug called Compound V to boost his powers. The Boys force Popclaw into becoming their informant and she points them toward their Compound V supplier, the Triad. The Boys break into a Triad hideout and discover a superpowered test subject named Chemo who has been dubbed the Female. The mute Chemo joins the Boys and develops a relationship with Frenchie. When a Train discovers Popclaw's betrayal, he kills her. Meanwhile, VA begins holding auditions for a new member to join the Seven following the retirement of a member known as Lamplighter. The optimistic and well-intentioned Annie, who can absorb electrical energy to grant her superhuman power, is hired to join the Seven as the superhero Starlight, but she quickly learns that her childhood heroes weren't quite as heroic as she thought they'd be. VA forces her into wearing a revealing costume and the Deep sexually assaults her, leading Annie to quickly become disillusioned with her new role. By chance, Annie ends up meeting Huey and they develop a romantic relationship. They motivate each other to stand up for their beliefs and bond over their shared hatred for the Seven. During a press conference, Annie breaks away from her planned script and publicly calls out VA's behavior and her sexual assault at the hands of the Deep. In response, VA fires the Deep from the Seven and forces him to become a hero in the much smaller market of Sandusky, Ohio. When Butcher finds out about Huey's relationship with Annie, he forces him to secretly exploit her for information on how the Boys can best take down the Seven. When Annie finds out about this, it fractures her relationship with Huey. Throughout the season, the Boys discover that VA has been using Compound V on newborn babies to create superheroes that they could raise and profit from. The truth about her superpowered origins devastates Annie. Meanwhile, Homelander is using Compound V to create terrorists that the Seven could fight, boosting their importance and power. Butcher then introduces Huey to Colonel Grace Mallory, founder of the Boys. Mallory had quit her mission to take down the Seven after Lamplighter murdered her family. Despite Butcher's pleas for her help, Mallory refuses, but does reveal that Homelander has complicated romantic feelings for VA executive Melanie Stillwell. She also warns Huey that Butcher doesn't actually care about the Boys or their mission to bring justice to the Seven and is purely driven by revenge against Homelander. Meanwhile, Homelander is discovering secrets of his own. He had been told by Stillwell and VA that Becca Butcher had become pregnant with his child and died along with the baby during childbirth. Homelander confronts Dr. Vogelbaum, a former VA scientist who raised Homelander after giving him his powers, and learns a shocking truth about Becca. Homelander goes to confront Stillwell about her betrayal, only to find Butcher is holding her hostage and covered her in explosives. Homelander reveals to Butcher that Becca is still alive and has given birth to his son, then kills Stillwell himself. Still driven by revenge, Butcher detonates the explosives. Homelander saves Butcher from the blast and delivers him to the secret home of Becca and her now 8-year-old son, Ryan. A shocked Becca and Butcher watch as Homelander introduces himself to his son, and Ryan's eyes grow red. With the same powers as his father. In Season 2 of The Boys, Homelander begins training his son, Ryan, on his superhero abilities, much to the dismay of Becca. Meanwhile, Homelander is also butting heads with his boss, VA CEO Stan Edgar, who places a new hero, Stormfront, in the Seven. It turns out Stormfront and Homelander are actually a perfect match. As Stormfront is secretly a white supremacist who uses her powers to support and promote her racist agenda, Homelander and Stormfront enter into a relationship and the two begin bringing out the worst in each other. Elsewhere in the Seven, the Deep desperately wants to earn his spot back on the roster and joins the Scientology-like Church of the Collective to help rehab his image, which includes an arranged marriage to a woman named Cassandra. Train's compound V addiction and withdrawals have weakened his powers and he's kicked off the team, leading him to also join the church. Queen Maeve begins to feel guilty over her complicity in VA's villainous actions and starts looking for ways to take down her employers in an attempt to keep Maeve in line. Homelander publicly reveals her relationship with a woman named Elena. And then there's Annie, who continues to work with Huey to expose VA's corruption. Annie leaks to the public that VA is using Compound V to create superheroes. Elsewhere, the titular boys have become wanted fugitives after Butcher is blamed for Melanie Stillwell's death. They learn about a new superpowered terrorist on the loose and try to get help from their CIA contact, Raynor, but the agent's head explodes as she is murdered by an unknown superpowered villain. Butcher makes a deal with Mallory to capture the terrorist in exchange for her giving him information on Becca's new location. The boys then discover the terrorist is actually Kimiko's brother Kenji while attempting to bring Kenji to the CIA. Homelander and Stormfront attack, resulting in Stormfront killing Kenji and several other innocent civilians. Stan Edgar blames the deaths and destruction on Kenji, using the event as proof of the Seven's necessity, and blames Compound V on rogue scientist working for Stillwell. Mallory provides Butcher with Becca's location, but when he tries to rescue her, she refuses to leave without Ryan, whom Butcher doesn't accept. Mallory also helps the boys uncover the truth behind the origins of Stormfront. It turns out Stormfront is actually much older than she appears. She was the widow of VA founder Frederick VA and the first to be injected with Compound V, making her the world's first superhero, then going by the name Liberty. Oh, and she also was a Nazi who socialized with Hitler. Annie then teams up with the boys as they follow a lead to the mysterious Sager Grove Psychiatric Hospital. There, the group discovers that VA is attempting to stabilize Compound V in adult subjects. They uncover a bunch of incriminating evidence and even capture former Seven-member Lamplighter, who was working at the hospital and overseeing the captive superpowered patients. The boys take Lamplighter to Mallory, who has long sought revenge on the Soup for killing her family. Lamplighter shows remorse and agrees to testify against VA in court, causing Mallory to spare his life. For her involvement with the boys, VA has Annie arrested and placed into a superpowered prison cell. Huey convinces Lamplighter to join him in infiltrating Ba to rescue her, but once inside, Lamplighter instead sets himself on fire to end his guilt. Despite this, Annie manages to break out of her cell and escapes with an assist from Maeve. Without Lamplighter as a witness, Butcher convinces Dr. Vogelbaum to testify against VA. The boys and Mallory team up with Congresswoman Victoria Newman to take down VA in court. But during the hearing, the mysterious superpowered assassin strikes again, exploding the heads of Vogelbaum and several other attendees. Huey and Annie then try to convince Maeve to testify against VA, but she refuses. Train then helps them expose Stormfront's Nazi past to the public, believing Stormfront's removal from the Seven would help him rejoin. Homelander and Stormfront pay Becca and Ryan a visit and manipulate Ryan to leave his mother to join them. A distraught Becca begs for Butcher to rescue her son, which he reluctantly agrees to do. Secretly, Butcher makes a deal with Stan Edgar, promising to bring him Ryan. Edgar would get to use Ryan as a means to better control Homelander, while in return, Edgar would also exonerate the boys and allow Becca to be with Butcher. The boys devise a plan to save Ryan, setting off a sonic device to distract Homelander. After rescuing Ryan, Butcher has a change of heart and asks Mother's Milk to take Becca and Ryan to the CIA, betraying Stan Edgar. Stormfront attacks the group, but Annie and Chemo team up to fight the racist supervillain. Maeve even arrives to help in the fight, but Stormfront manages to escape. Stormfront attacks Becca, prompting Ryan to use his laser eyes for the first time to save his mother. Ryan amputates all of Stormfront's limbs, but also accidentally leaves his mother with a fatal wound. As Becca dies, Butcher promises that he will protect Ryan and ensure he grows up to be a hero, unlike his father, Homelander. And so, Butcher turns the child over to Mallory and the CIA to ensure his protection. Stan Edgar then holds a press conference blaming the attack at the Senate hearing on Stormfront and announcing that the production and release of Compound V is indefinitely paused, leading to the boys being cleared of all charges. Annie and a train are allowed back into the Seven, frustrating the Deep, who leaves the Church of the Collective. As the season comes to a close, Congresswoman Victoria Newman creates the Federal Bureau of Superhuman Affairs to keep superpowered individuals in check, with her first official employee being Huey. Unfortunately, and unbeknownst to Huey, it's revealed that Newman is actually the superpowered assassin as she explodes the head of Church of the Collective leader Alistair Adana upon learning of his plans to expose dirt on dozens of superheroes. In Season 3 of The Boys, a year has passed and the titular team are now working as contract soldiers to take down rogue supes under the leadership of Victoria Newman's Bureau of Superhero Affairs. Mother's Milk has grown tired of Butcher's violent and erratic methods and leaves the team to help co-parent his daughter in peace. Meanwhile, Butcher is still mourning Becca and is struggling to connect with Ryan, blaming him for Becca's death despite his best efforts to forgive the innocent child. Unfortunately, Huey soon discovers that his boss Victoria is actually the villainous head-exploding soup assassin. And to complicate things even further, while looking into Victoria's past, Huey discovers that she is actually the secret adopted daughter of VA CEO Stan Edgar. To help get over the public scandal of Stormfront being an evil Nazi that Homelander was dating, VA names Starlight as the new co-leader of the Seven. During a televised press conference, Homelander loses his public veneer of sanity and lashes out about his persecution under VA's leadership and how he is the savior of the world and should be treated like it. Despite fearing that showing his true self to the world would lead to losing the public support, it instead only serves to make Homelander's fan base of incel white men more devoted and raid. Much to MM's dismay, that fan base also includes his daughter's new stepfather. Feeling more powerful than ever, Homelander threatens mass genocide if Starlight doesn't fall in line and pretend to be his new girlfriend. While also making sure his loyal lapdog, the Deep, is reinstated into the Seven. Despite her warning, Starlight's ex-boyfriend, Supersonic, becomes the newest member of the Seven and promises to protect her from Homelander's wrath, which only leads to Homelander brutally murdering him as a threat to Starlight. Homelander then aligns with Victoria to use her political platform to condemn Stan's actions and publicly expose Bot's corruption under his leadership. Stan Edgar is then ousted as Bot CEO, and Homelander gives Victoria Compound V to use on her own daughter as payment. Homelander then helps elevate the power-hungry and desperate publicist Ashley as the new CEO of VA, knowing that she would be completely under his control. The Deep is then tasked to assassinate the running mate of the leading candidate for the United States presidency, clearing the way for Victoria to be on the ticket for vice president. Meanwhile, a train becomes furious and dismayed over a soup named Blue Hawk using excessive force against African Americans. When a train forces him to publicly apologize during a press conference, Blue Hawk instead becomes enraged and attacks the crowd, injuring and paralyzing a train's brother. Train gets revenge by brutally killing Blue Hawk, but then suffers a heart attack while using his super speed. Train survives, ironically, thanks to a transplant using Blue Hawk's heart. Elsewhere within the Seven, Queen Maeve is secretly working with Billy Butcher to search for a way to take down Homelander for good. They become friends with benefits, and Maeve gives Butcher several vials of V24, nicknamed Temp, a new VAT drug that temporarily grants superpowers. Maeve also points Butcher toward a mysterious weapon that could be powerful enough to kill Homelander, as it had previously been used to kill America's first and most popular superhero, Soldier Boy, 40 years prior. Mother's Milk rejoins the boys in their quest to uncover the truth behind Soulja Boy's death. As Soulja Boy's reckless heroics had led to the death of NM's grandfather. The boys' mission leads them to Soulja Boy's former superhero team Payback, which included many other soups, including Black Noir, that just so happened to go on missions with the CIA, led by none other than Grace Mullery. Mullery tells the boys that she led Payback on a mission in Russia that resulted in the team being defeated and Soulja Boy missing and presumably killed by a mysterious Russian super weapon. And so Butcher leads the boys to Russia to investigate and find the weapon. Huey and Butcher both take Temp V to develop superpowers to aid in their mission. With Butcher gaining super strength, durability, and laser vision, and Huey gaining strength, durability, and the power to teleport, the boys infiltrate a Russian base and discover Soldier Boy alive and captured. Awakened and freed from his decadecil-long slumber, a confused Soldier Boy unleashes a powerful radioactive energy blast that strikes Chemo, critically injuring her and removing her powers. As Soldier Boy flees, the boys realize that he is in fact the super weapon that has the power to defeat Homelander. As the boys hunt for the missing and volatile Soldier Boy, they discover that he was always antagonistic and abusive to his payback teammates. So they sold him out on behalf of Stan Edgar to the Russians. During the Russian attack, after realizing the betrayal, Soldier Boy brutally beat up, disfigured, and brain-damaged Black Noir. During Soldier Boy's captivity, the Russians conducted decades worth of experiments on him that have left him radioactively unstable. Despite the danger Soldier Boy poses and strong desire for revenge, Butcher and Huey agree to work with the powerful Soup to kill his entire payback team. In exchange for Soldier Boy helping them kill Homelander, Starlight is dismayed by Huey's actions, recklessly taking temp and aligning with a dangerous and antagonistic killer. This inspires her to drop her Soup name and live as Annie, resign from the Seven and publicly condemn VA, Homelander, and Soldier Boy's corruption. She also secretly films and broadcasts Homelander going on a rant and confessing to all of his past villain. In her last acted VA, Annie steals Compound V and gives it to Kimiko to restore her powers and heal her injuries. Annie also discovers that Temp V will kill its users after several doses. Butcher ignores this warning and continues taking Temp to aid in his mission to kill Homelander. Although he does force Huey to stop taking the drug to protect him. As the volatile Soldier Boy seeks to further uncover the corruption that led to his betrayal, he discovers that Homelander is in fact his biological son. Born out of Bot's research into Soldier Boy's own genetics. When Homelander learns of this and realizes Black Noir has long known and withheld this secret from him, Homelander spitefully kills his Seven teammate. In the end, the boys Annie and Maeve all team up to defeat Homelander once and for all. As Soldier Boy confronts Homelander for being weak and undeserving of his family legacy, he discovers the Soup has found and reconciled with his biological son Ryan. Soldier Boy ignores the well-being of the child and attacks Homelander, putting Ryan in danger, valuing Ryan's safety over his desire for revenge against Homelander. Butcher intervenes to save Ryan and inadvertently spare his arch-rival. As Homelander, Butcher, and Soldier Boy all face off, Ryan sides with Homelander because he offers him unconditional love, while Butcher has only pushed him away as a reminder of the death of Becca. During the brutal face-off, Maeve arrives to fight Homelander, resulting in her losing an eye. Huey helps power up Annie, finally accepting his inner strength and realizing he doesn't need powers to be a hero. As Annie uses her powers against Soldier Boy, he begins to overheat and nears a radioactive explosion that would kill everyone. And so Maeve sacrifices herself to tackle Soldier Boy out of a window. As the pair plummet to the ground, Soldier Boy explodes and both Soups are presumed dead. Amidst the chaos, Homelander flees with Ryan. Unbeknownst to the public, May is still alive, but the blast has removed her powers, allowing her to live a normal life in peace with her girlfriend. Meanwhile, a weakened Soldier Boy is captured and imprisoned by Grace Mallory. As the season comes to a close, a protester calling out Homelander's evil actions accidentally strikes Ryan, leading to Homelander using his powers to publicly murder the man. But instead of being met with horror, the crowd cheers for their god with none more in Homelander than his corrupted son, Ryan. And that's everything you need to know from the first 3 seasons of The Boys. But Season 4 will also continue the story started in Season 1 of the spin-off series Genv. Season 1 of Genv is set at the superhero college Dulin University or GODU. Marie Morrow is a new student who has the ability to control blood with her mind upon first hitting puberty years prior. Marie's powers unexpectedly developed, leading her to accidentally killing her own parents, forcing her and her sister to be separated in foster care. Now Marie is attending GODU on a scholarship sponsored by Congresswoman Victoria Newman. At GODU, Marie makes fast friends with her roommate Emma, who has the power to shrink or grow her body by purging or binging food. Marie also meets Luke, aka Golden Boy, a super strong and pyrokinetic Soup who is the most popular guy at school and on track to become the newest member of the Seven. Upon graduation, Luke's best friend is Andre, who has magnetism manipulation abilities. And Luke's girlfriend is Kate, who can control minds by touching her target. And then there's Jordan, a gender shifter who can fire energy blasts in their female form and are indestructible in their male form. Unfortunately, as Marie acclimates to her new school, Luke appears to have a sudden psychotic break, killing his mentor before flying into the sky and exploding. All of Luke's friends are shocked and devastated by his actions and begin looking into his death. During their investigation, Andre and Kate develop romantic feelings for each other, though both feel guilty due to their love for the deceased Luke. The friends eventually discover that God is actually home of a secret bot research facility known as the Woods, which conducts various experiments on soups, including the development of a soup virus that could kill anyone with powers. The friends free Luke's younger brother Sam from the Woods and he soon begins dating Emma. The friends then learn that the Woods also conducted experiments on Luke and Sam, giving Luke some of his brother's super strength while forcing Sam to remain imprisoned and experimented on. Every time Luke remembered the torture his brother was forced to endure, his memory was erased by his girlfriend Kate, who had been mentored by God-used Dean Shetty. Shetty had previously helped Kate control the powers that destroyed her childhood and pushed her entire family away. As Luke's mind became more broken with every memory wipe, he grew more unstable, leading to his explosion and death. Andre and the others are shocked and devastated by Kate's betrayal. When Kate discovers that Shetty was involved in the development of the soup virus and had been manipulating Kate to serve her own treacherous motives, Kate kills the Dean. Kate then teams up with a similarly vengeful Sam to stage a riot at Godu, exposing the virus publicly, releasing all of the Woods captives and viciously slaughtering all of the non-sup humans at Godu. Marie, Andre, Emma, and Jordan are forced to battle their friends to thwart their violent campus rampage. In the fight, Marie blows up Kate's arm to protect Jordan from being mind-controlled. Amidst the chaos, Homelander arrives to put an end to the fighting, confronting Marie and her allies for their disloyalty to Soups. Marie, Andre, Emma, and Jordan are all subdued and imprisoned in a new secret research hospital and publicly blamed for the masquerade Godu, with Kate and Sam being hailed as heroes. As the season comes to a close, Billy Butcher arrives at the ruins of the Woods in search of the soup-killing virus. But unfortunately for Butcher, the duplicitous Victoria Newman has gotten her hands on the virus first. In Season 4 of The Boys, Homelander has finally achieved all of the power he has ever desired, yet is left feeling unfulfilled due to everyone around him acting as terrified yes-men. While training his son Ryan to follow in his footsteps, Homelander also begins to worry that he will soon become irrelevant as he has finally begun to show signs of aging. To refill the ranks of the dwindling Seven, Homelander recruits Sister Sage, the smartest person in the world and the only person who will be honest with him. Homelander appoints Sage as the new CEO of VA, demoting Ashley to little more than a human mascot. The pair then recruit the alt-right soup media personality Firecracker, who holds a personal vendetta against Starlight for bullying her when they were younger. And to cover up Black Noir's death at the hands of Homelander, VA hires a soup actor to secretly replace him. As Homelander faces trial for publicly murdering one of his own protesters, Sage comes up with a plan to turn the tide of the public back to his favor. With this plan, Homelander forces a train, Black Noir, and the Deep to brutally murder a group of his supporters known as Home Teamers, which includes Todd, the ex-boyfriend of MM's ex-wife Monique. When Homelander is officially declared not guilty, a mob of protesters known as Starlighters, inspired by Annie's true heroics, stage a revolt. Sage infiltrates the Starlighters and stokes a riot with the Home Teamers, during which a train plants the bodies of Todd and his fellow superfans. And so, the Starlighters are framed as violent killers, leading to the public beginning to support Homelander once again. In the aftermath, a train feels guilty about all of the terrible acts that he's been forced to commit at Homelander's command. And so, he gives proof to Annie about the real cause of the Home Teamers' deaths in an attempt to atone for his sins. A train then tells Ashley of his actions, forcing her to become his accomplice. When Sage discovers that someone leaked the evidence, the Deep is demoted due to being in charge of VA's crime division, leading him to commiserate with his octopus lover, Ambrosius. To help cover up a train's role as the leaker, Ashley frames her ex-boyfriend, VOT news anchor Cameron Coleman, who is then killed by the Seven. They'll swear when Robert Singer is elected President of the United States. Homelander plots to have Singer assassinated so that his secret soup vice president, Victoria Newman, will be elevated to Commander-in-Chief. To thwart this plan, the boys attempt to assassinate Victoria before she can enact any of her dangerous policies. Unfortunately, the team are thwarted by Victoria's newly superpowered daughter, Zoe, and by the revelation that Victoria's powers not only allow her to blow up heads, but also make her completely invulnerable. Amidst these personal conflicts, the boys learn that Billy Butcher's abuse of Tempe has resulted in him having mere months left to live. Butcher begins seeing visions of his late wife, Becca, encouraging him to act more heroically in his fight against evil. But his atonement is too little too late. With the boys no longer trusting him and installing as their new leader, Huey learns that his father, Hugh Sr., has been left comatose after having a stroke. Huey's estranged mother, Daphne, returns to help care for Hugh, leading to the mother and son beginning to reconcile. Knowing that his father will soon die, a desperate Huey turns to a train and asks him to acquire Compound V. All manufactured doses of which are stored in Homelander's apartment. While the bee saves Hugh's life and grants him the power to phase through objects, he also becomes confused and erratic, accidentally killing several innocent people. Huey comes to the devastating realization that the best thing for him to do is to kill his own father, putting him out of his misery and preventing any further bloodshed. Frenchie and Chemo realize that despite their love for each other, they are too broken individually to ever be together romantically. And so Kimiko encourages Frenchie to pursue a romance with a man named Colin. But this burgeoning relationship violently ends when Colin discovers that Frenchie had been responsible for the deaths of his entire family years prior when he worked for the Russian mafia. Feeling ashamed and guilt-ridden, Frenchie chooses to turn himself over to the police and refuses visitation from Chemo. Elsewhere, as Homelander continues his training of his son, he also forbids Ryan from contacting Butcher. Despite Ryan's dismay upon learning of Butcher's terminal condition, when Homelander stages a public act of heroics, Ryan accidentally kills his stunt coach, leaving him traumatized. Butcher stages a secret meeting with Ryan, consoling him over the accidental killing and encouraging him to become a true hero for the good of the public. Unlike the egomaniacal and power-hungry Homelander, when Homelander discovers this secret meeting, he angrily confronts Ryan, leading to his son running away in fear. This sends Homelander into an emotional spiral and a complete mental breakdown. As Homelander attempts to mend his relationship with his son, he also proclaims to the Seven that they will no longer be satisfied as celebrity superheroes, but instead will become wrathful gods. Meanwhile, Butcher's old friend and CIA contact Joe Kessler fears that Ryan is extremely dangerous and warns that if the boy can't be turned to the good side, he needs to be killed alongside Homelander. Annie continues trying to be herself despite the world only viewing her worth as Starlight. Following Era's betrayal of the Seven, Annie becomes inspired to finally embrace her role as a political symbol for those rebelling against Homelander. Firecracker spurs her audience of red-pilled incels to further hate the Starlighters and reveals all of Annie's personal secrets on live television, including the fact that she had an abortion. Annie snaps, publicly beating Firecracker, which in turn plays right into Sage's trap of painting her as a villain. Firecracker then begins taking drugs to produce breast milk, which she supplies to Homelander in order to win his favor over Sage. Feeling fed up with Homelander's ego, Sage seduces the Deep and tasks him with lobotomizing her as the process temporarily doses her intelligence, allowing herself to feel stress-free and unburdened. When Ambrosius discovers this affair, she confronts the Deep, who then angrily breaks her tank, accidentally killing her. Butcher finally tells the boys about the soup-killing virus that Victoria had retrieved from Dulcan University. And so they plot to retrieve it from her to use against Homelander. They have Victoria's adoptive father, Stan Edgar, released from prison to aid in their mission. And he leads the boys to his family farm where Victoria's lover and Zoe's father Samir has been working to replicate the virus. Unfortunately, upon reaching the farm, the boys discover that it has become overrun by violently superpowered animals that had been accidentally infected by Compound V. Samir reveals that only one dose of the virus remains, which the boys are forced to use on the animals in order to save their own lives. Though Samir is killed in the chaos, secretly, thanks to Kessler's encouragement, Butcher is fakes Samir's death to force him into replicating the virus. Samir warns Butcher that a virus strong enough to kill Homelander would likely mutate to infect and kill every single soup on the planet. Kessler encourages Butcher to pursue the virus anyway, leading Butcher to finally remember that Kessler is long dead, and the man he sees in front of him is just a compound-induced figment of his imagination. The devil on his shoulder to Becca's angel. Butcher ignores Kessler and reveals the truth about the virus to the boys, leaving Annie calling it a soup genocide. Butcher insists that he has no interest in using the virus, winning the boys' trust and being placed back in charge as their leader. Though secretly, he has Grace Mullery secure the release of Frenchie from prison to help Samir complete the virus. When the boys learn that President Singer is going to be assassinated on January 6, Homelander sends the Deep and Black Noir to kill them all. Fortunately, a train intervenes to save the boys, though his cover as the mole within the Seven is blown, forcing him into hiding from Homelander's wrath. As the boys warn Singer of his imminent danger and offer their protection, a villainous soup known as the Shifter captures Annie and poses as her, seducing Huey to infiltrate their ranks, plotting to assassinate the president in framed starlight. The oblivious Huey proposes to Shifter Annie, unaware of the danger his real girlfriend is in. Meanwhile, after completing the virus, Samir injects it into Kimiko's leg and flees. Frenchie amputates the leg to stop the spread and save Kimiko's life. While working to extract the virus from the severed leg, Frenchie and Kimiko finally decide to stop running away from their true feelings and profess their love for each other. Elsewhere, Ryan begins questioning the oppressive culture that Homelander is trying to instill in the country and publicly denounces his father in VA. Butcher proudly watches Ryan before collapsing and being hospitalized due to the V tumor in his head. When Homelander discovers that Ryan has developed a secret kinship with Butcher, he angrily lashes out at his son, scaring him away and sending Homelander into a further emotional spiral. The erratic Homelander exposes Victoria as a soup on national television, then threatens the life of her daughter, Zoe, to force her into publicly backing all of his actions. Ryan races to visit Butcher in the hospital, but while there, his surrogate father and Grace Mullery both try to convince Ryan to help them kill Homelander as he may be the only suit powerful enough to do so. Angered by feeling used by yet another father figure, Ryan flees, shoving Mullery out of the way and accidentally killing her in the process. Meanwhile, the other boys successfully intervene to save Singer from assassination. Annie breaks free from her binds to join the boys and kill the Shifter. Feeney then successfully extracts the virus from Kimiko's leg. Victoria, tired of living in fear under Homelander's dictatorship, agrees to help the boys bring the villain down in exchange for the protection of her daughter. Unfortunately, Butcher then arrives, the death of Mullery, having driven him to fully give in to the violent urges of Kessler. Embracing his full powers for the first time, Butcher kills Victoria and takes the virus, willing to begin a full-on soup genocide to the horror of the other boys. Elsewhere, Homelander orders the remaining members of the Seven to slaughter anyone who has ever spoken or acted against him. Fearing for her life, Ashley injects herself with Compound V in the hopes of gaining powers to protect herself. As the season comes to a close, Sage reveals to Homelander that she had concocted a master plan, secret even from him. After finding out that Victoria had been a part of his assassination plot, Singer had angrily told the boys that he wished her dead. And now that Butcher has killed Victoria, Sage has Singer framed for the murder and ousted as president. The Speaker of the House, Stephen Calhoun, is thus named the President of the United States and is happy to act as a willing puppet for Homelander to bend to his will. And in another victory for Homelander, he finally uncovers the location of his cryogenically frozen father, Soldier Boy. In the end, Huey, Frenchie, and Kimiko are all apprehended by Homelander's forces, though Annie manages to escape. Meanwhile, Butcher heads off with the soup-killing virus, ready to end the battle against Homelander by any means necessary. But the story before the final season of The Boys doesn't end there. In Season 2 of Jind, Sister Sage engages in a relationship with Dulcan University's founder, Thomas Dulcan. Unfortunately, as Dulcan increases his power, he plots to kill the weaker soup students at his school in order to leave only the strongest soups alive for supremacy on Earth. Sage grows tired of Dulcan's Homelander-like ego and abandons him to his own devices. Students at Dulcan like Marie, Emma, and Jordan stand up against Dulcan's villain, while even former enemies Sam and Kate become inspired by the message of the rebellious Starlighters to join the fight against not just Dulcan, but also Homelander and his oppressive rule. In the end, Dulcan is killed while Marie, Emma, Jordan, Kate, Sam, and Marie's sister Annabeth are forced to go on the run, eventually being found by Annie in a train, who officially welcomed them to the resistance. In Season 5 of The Boys, 1 year has passed since Homelander seized power of the entire United States, using the president as his own personal puppet. Former VOD CEO Ashley remains terrified of Homelander, yet loyal to his cause, earning her elevation to Vice President of the US and using the telepathy powers of the newly formed face on the back of her head known as Bashley to root out any of Homelander's dissenters. Ashley is also now married to the evangelical pastor in Soup O Father, who with the help of fellow believer Firecracker establishes the new Democratic Church of America. Amidst Homelander's growing power, Annie and Chemo reluctantly realign with their morally ambiguous former leader Billy Butcher to break Huey, Frenchie and MM out of an internment camp. When Homelander arrives to thwart the escape and moves to execute Huey, a train intervenes to save him. Finally becoming the true hero he always aspired to be, AR fearlessly stands up to Homelander and viciously rebukes his insecurities and God complex. Homelander murders a train for this act of defiance, but is left shaken by his words. Despite forcing the country to worship him, Homelander is left feeling lonely in his newfound position of power. And so he wakes his father, Soulja Boy, from his cryosleep, hoping they can form a genuine partnership. Despite his disgust toward his son, Soulja Boy agrees to help track down Butcher and the boys in exchange for an elevation back to his former glory in the Seven. Meanwhile, the reunited boys argue over the best methods to use their soup-killing virus. Butcher insists that ending the dictatorial reign of Homelander is worth the virus killing every single soup on the planet, including Annie, Kimiko, and himself. Instead, the others come up with a plan to try to contain the spread of the virus and make a plan to test it on an immobile soup known as Rockhard. Upon reaching Rockhard, the boys are intercepted by the soup's team members from Teenage Kicks and none other than Soulja Boy himself. After sealing off the area, Frenchie releases the virus, killing Rockhard and fellow Teenage Kick member Jetstreak. Though somehow Soulja Boy survives. Sister Sage deduces that the original, more potent version of Compound V that gave Soulja Boy his powers and immortality known as V1 also grants him immunity from the virus. Upon this revelation, Homelander becomes obsessed with finding a dose of V1 for himself, which would not only protect him from the virus, but also grant him the immortality that would elevate him to true godlike status. Desperate to defeat Homelander before he becomes immortal, Butcher devises a heartless plan to win at any cost. Believing Ryan, the son of his beloved late Becca, to be the only suit powerful enough to stand up to Homelander, Butcher gives him the virus and encourages him to sacrifice his own life to defeat his evil father. And so, Ryan confronts Homelander, hoping to finally get revenge for the death of his mother. Instead, Homelander beats his own son to a pulp and leaves him for dead. Meanwhile, the other boys race to find and destroy the V1 before Homelander can use it. They turn to Stan Edgar for help in locating the V1. But unfortunately, Homelander uncovers their plan and sends a team to slaughter them all. Although the boys manage to escape, Stan is captured by the Deep and Black Noir. Hoping to win favor with Homelander, the duplicitous Deep betrays Noir to take full credit for Stan's capture himself. The newfound rivalry between the Deep and Black Noir worsens when Noir tries to branch out from the Seven and start a stage acting career, only for the Deep to murder the play's director. When the Deep is then forced to publicly support VA's new oil pipeline, despite knowing the harm it could cause to the surrounding ocean inhabitants, Black Noir takes his ultimate revenge, sabotaging the pipeline and resulting in the deaths of countless fish. Devastated by the loss of his friends, the Deep brings his rivalry to an end by murdering Black Noir. After questioning Stan Edgar for answers, Homelander and Soulja Boy seek out former member of the Seven, Mr. Marathon, to learn of the location of the last remaining V1. Secretly, Marathon and fellow Soup Mulch Chemical have grown scared and weary of Homelander's extremism. And so when the villain arrives with Soulja Boy, they subdue Homelander and plot to kill him. Instead, Soulja Boy proves his loyalty to his son by killing Mal Chemical. As Marathon tries to defeat Soulja Boy, he accidentally runs through and kills all of his celebrity guest friends, including Will Forte, Cole Nagiani, Christopher Mintz, Craig Robinson, and Seth Rogen. Ultimately, Soulja Boy and Homelander work together to defeat Marathon. Learn that the last of the V1 is in the possession of Soulja Boy's former teammate Bombsight and then brutally kill the Soup Speedster. Meanwhile, Firecracker begins to have a crisis of faith. Conflicted over her loyalty to Homelander and his claims of divinity and her own belief in the actual God. When Homelander learns of Firecracker's wavering loyalty, he coldly murders her. With Homelander one step closer to full ascension as a god, Sister Sage reveals to Ashley her desire to keep V1 out of her boss's hands inside a war that kills off everyone, supes and humans alike, and live out her days peacefully in a bunker. Ashley reads Soldier Boy's mind and learns that despite his seeming hatred for his son, he has grown to begrudgingly respect him. And with Homelander now closing in on the V1, Sage decides to defect to the boys to help them thwart the villain. The boys decide to capture Golden Geisha, the now elderly former lover of the immortal Bombsight, to use her as bait to draw out the reclusive Soup. As Bombsight arrives to reunite with Geisha, the group are interrupted by Soulja Boy, who after an intense fight with his former teammates ultimately offers up a deal. Soulja Boy uses his chest blast to remove Bombsight's immortality, allowing him to finally live a normal life with Golden Geisha. In exchange, Bombsight turns over the last of the V1. Although the super-smart Sage believes that Soulja Boy hates his son, the Soup has in fact bonded with Homelander over their shared love for the late Stormfront. And so, Soulja Boy hands over the V1 to his son, forcing Sage and the boys to helplessly watch as Homelander becomes fully immortal. Believing himself to now be the one true god, Homelander kills the US president and dissolves the Seven, no longer finding any use for them. Believing he has fulfilled any obligations to help his son, Soulja Boy attempts to retire in peace. Instead, a lonely and needy Homelander subdues his father and returns him to his cryostasis, wanting him nearby at all times. No longer in the Seven, the Deep has lost his sense of purpose. And with the entire ocean now blaming him for the pipeline disaster, even his former fish friends now want him dead. Elsewhere, Frenchie and Sage team up to try to replicate Soulja Boy's chest blast, hoping it can be used to strip Homelander of his powers and immortality. As they conduct tests on Chemo, she and Frenchie dream of a peaceful life post-Homelander, where they can live happily together with 3 kids and a dog. Meanwhile, the rest of the boys infiltrate VOD Studios to rescue a focus group filled with innocent humans sentenced to death for doubting Homelander's status as the one true god. They take the survivors to a hideout where they will be protected by loyal Starlighters Marie Morrow and Jordan Lee. Unfortunately, Homelander then uncovers the location of the boys' base. Frenchie helps hide Sage and the weakened Kimiko, then selflessly distracts Homelander to keep them safe. Frenchie unleashes the unperfect radiation on Homelander, exposing himself to the lethal dosage in the process. As Homelander flees, Kimiko races from her hiding spot to find the mortally wounded Frenchie, who tragically dies in his lover's arms. As the boys mourn the loss of their friend, Sage purposely antagonizes Kimiko, leading her to unleash her new Soulja Boy-like chest blast that Frenchie had successfully bestowed upon her. The blast removes Sage's superintelligence, allowing her to live peacefully without the burden of knowledge, while Butcher excitedly affirms that the boys finally have a means of defeating Homelander once and for all. At the White House, Homelander prepares a press conference to assert himself as the new messiah to the world. Psychic soups have been installed to read the minds of Earth's population, marking for death anyone who refuses to believe in Homelander as their new god. President Ashley finally has the courage to act against Homelander and secretly helps the boys infiltrate the White House for a final confrontation. Once inside, Annie is confronted by the Deep, who is still desperate to earn the affection of Homelander and hoping that killing Starlight will finally earn his leader respect. Instead, Annie flies the Deep to the beach where they engage in a brutal fight that culminates with Annie tossing the Deep into the ocean where he is killed by his vengeful former sea friends. Meanwhile, Huey and MM fight and kill Othar while Butcher and Chemo confront Homelander in the middle of his live press conference to the world. As the group engage in a fight to the death, Chemo struggles to use her newfound powers, giving Homelander the upper hand. The now recovered Ryan arrives to help defeat his father, giving Kimiko the time to be inspired by a vision of the late Frenchie, allowing her to unleash her chest blast on Ryan, Butcher, and Homelander. Now without powers, Homelander pathetically begs for Butcher to spare his life. Instead, Butcher brutally murders the villain on live TV, finally getting revenge for countless innocent victims, including Frenchie and Becca. In the aftermath of Homelander's death, Ashley is impeached as president and Stan Edgar is reinstated as CEO of VA. Butcher wishes to retire to a peaceful life with Ryan. But Becca's son affirms that he has no interest in being raised by a man as violent and villainous as Billy Butcher. And when Butcher discovers that his beloved dog, the Terror, has succumbed to old age, he is finally pushed completely over the edge. Butcher heads off to VA's headquarters and prepares to release the last remaining dose of the virus, wanting to kill every single soup on the planet to ensure a new Homelander-like tyrant can never rise to power again. Huey confronts his old friend and begs him to stand down. Butcher refuses. As Butcher prepares to release the virus, his former mentie's words cause him to hesitate, giving Huey the chance to shoot Butcher down. As Butcher dies, he shares a moment of peace with Huey, affirming he is proud that despite all of the horrors he has been forced to endure, Huey never lost his moral goodness. In the end, Kimiko retires to France to live the peaceful life she envisioned with Frenchie. Noon takes in Ryan as his ward and remarries his ex-wife, and Huey returns to his normal life with a now pregnant Annie. They plan to name their unborn child Robin, inspired by Huey's late girlfriend, whose death at the hands of a train started this entire journey. And despite now being pregnant, Annie continues using her powers for good. Finally able to be the inspiring superhero she always dreamt of being. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And why not check out this recommended video while you're at it?